Hello, this is Social Science Simplified, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be analyzing and making predictions for the 2022 Senate elections, in which all Class 3 Senate seats are up for re-election. So let's get right into it with the safe Republican states. So safe Republican states are going to be the usual safe Republican states: Idaho, Utah, North and South Dakota, Kansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, South Carolina, Alabama, Kentucky. Indiana is going to be a safe Republican state. Indiana has shifted to the right recently. It used to have a Democratic senator who lost re-election in 2018. Joe Donnelly lost re-election in 2018 to Mike Braun. So Indiana is going to be a safe Senate seat for the GOP in 2022. Todd Young, who won his first term in 2016, is going to be re-elected, and chances are Mike Braun will be re-elected in 2024. And two more safe Republican seats, and those are going to be Alaska. Lisa Murkowski is up for re-election, obviously facing a challenge from her right. However, Alaska uses ranked choice voting, meaning there are no primaries, meaning more moderate voters are going to choose Lisa Murkowski as their second choice. So regardless of whether she or her opponent to the right, Kelly Tshibaka, wins, Alaska is going to be a safe state for the GOP in 2022. And then lastly, Iowa. Chuck Grassley is running for re-election, and he is going to be re-elected. He has been re-elected with 60% of the vote in most of the elections since he won his first term. And chances are he's running right now. If he continues on that course, which most likely he will, he is going to win re-election by a safe margin in 2022. And now moving on to the safe states for the Democratic Party. And those are going to be California. Alex Padilla was recently appointed in 2021, so I guess a year ago, to replace Kamala Harris when she took the oath of the vice presidency. She resigned her Senate seat, and California Governor Gavin Newsom appointed Alex Padilla to serve as a senator. So usually there would be a special election, except for the fact that Kamala Harris's Senate seat was a Class 3 Senate seat, so the special election would be in the same year as the general election. So California is just holding a general election, and Alex Padilla, a Democrat, will be re-elected by a safe margin of victory in 2022. Moving on, Illinois, safe Democratic seat in 2022. Tammy Duckworth won her first term in 2016, defeating incumbent Senator Mark Kirk, who was a Republican. Tammy Duckworth is going to be re-elected by a safe margin of victory. Other safe Democratic Senate seats. Vermont, incumbent Democratic Senator Patrick Leahy is retiring. However, a Democrat will fill that seat. Chances are it's going to be Peter Welch, the current representative for Vermont. He is running for the Senate seat, and he will be elected by a safe margin of victory in 2022. And then a few more safe Democratic seats in 2022. New York, Connecticut, and Maryland. And that is all for the safe, and then Hawaii. And that is all for the safe Democratic seats in 2022. And now moving on to the likely seats, starting off with the GOP. And there are going to be 3 seats for this. Missouri. Missouri would usually be a safe Senate seat for the GOP in 2022, given the Republican-leaning national environment heading into the 2022 election. Additionally, given the fact that 2 strong Democratic candidates, Jason Kander, who only lost by about 2 points to Roy Blunt in 2016, as well as Claire McCaskill, who lost to Josh Hawley in 2018, she was the incumbent senator at the time, have both declined to run. So this would normally be a safe Senate seat for the GOP. However, one of the candidates running for the GOP nomination is Eric Greitens, who is the former governor of Missouri, who did have to resign over a scandal. If he wins the GOP nomination, this race could certainly become more competitive, as Eric Greitens would scare away some of the more moderate voters from voting for the GOP. However, if Eric Greitens loses the GOP nomination, this seat would definitely be a safe GOP seat. So I'm going to be updating you on that as the primaries roll around. And then the 2 other likely Senate seats for the GOP in 2022. Ohio. Incumbent Senator Rob Portman is retiring. However, chances are, given the fact that Ohio does lean Republican now and already has a Democratic Senator, Sherrod Brown, who will be up for re-election in 2024. He won re-election in 2018. chances are that the GOP will win this Senate seat in Ohio in 2022. And chances are it will be by a likely margin of victory, probably by around 8 to 10 points, given the GOP-leaning environment in 2022. And then lastly, Florida. Marco Rubio is the incumbent senator in Florida. Val Demings is the Democratic frontrunner to challenge him. And while she is viewed as more of a moderate, Florida has been leaning Republican, especially in its Senate races recently. So chances are Marco Rubio will be reelected by around 5 to 10 points, and which is a likely margin of victory for the GOP in Florida in 2022. And now moving on to the likely states for the Democratic Party, and there are 3 in this category. One is Colorado. Incumbent Senator Michael Bennet was appointed by the governor of Colorado after Ken Salazar resigned to join Barack Obama's cabinet, and chances are that Michael Bennet is going to be reelected by a likely margin of victory in 2022. And he will be reelected to his second full term, or to his third full term, that is. I apologize. And chances are it will be by a likely margin of victory, probably similar to John Hickenlooper's margin of victory in 2020, although it could get more competitive, once again, given the GOP-leaning national environment. And then 2 more likely Democratic Senate seats in 2022, and those are Oregon. In Oregon, chances are the Democrat is going to be reelected. However, given the GOP-leaning national environment in 2022, I doubt it will be by over 15 points. It will probably still be by around 12 points, which is not very competitive. However, that is still a likely margin of victory and not a safe margin of victory. And then finally, in Washington, incumbent Senator Patty Murray has not been polling very well against her potential opponents, and while these are just preliminary polls, it shows that this race could get competitive, and while I do not believe that Patty Murray will lose re-election, I believe she will be re-elected, I believe that this race could potentially get competitive, and she could win by around 8 to 10 points instead of 17 points, per se. So that is why Washington is a likely state for the Democratic Party. And now moving on to the lean states. And for the GOP, there are 2 of these. North Carolina, incumbent Senator Richard Burr is retiring, and the Republican frontrunner to replace him, albeit it is a very competitive primary, is Ted Budd. Ted Budd has the endorsement from Donald Trump, and chances are he is going to win the GOP primary. However, this race could still be competitive, but given the fact that the incumbent Republican is retiring, the Republicans outperformed their polling numbers in North Carolina in the Senate race in 2020, and the fact that the 2022 environment is leaning towards the GOP, this is a lean state for the Republican Party in 2022. Chances are that whoever comes out of the Republican primary field will win the general election by around 3 or 4 points. And then the second lean state for the Republican Party is Wisconsin. Incumbent Senator Ron Johnson has decided to run for a 3rd term. And while this race is somewhat viewed as competitive, I believe given the fact that Wisconsin has been trending more to the right in recent elections, even though Joe Biden carried it in 2020, the GOP-leaning environment will push Ron Johnson across the finish line in 2022 in Wisconsin, re-electing him to a 3rd term. And finally, now moving on to the lean states for the Democratic Party, there's only 1 in this category, and that is New Hampshire. Incumbent Senator Maggie Hassan won in 2016, beating Kelly Ayotte by a very narrow margin of victory. And given that Chris Sununu, the governor of New Hampshire, who is a Republican, has declined to run for Senate in 2022, chances are Maggie Hassan is going to win re-election by a lean margin of victory. And finally, moving on to the tilt states. And there is 1 of these for the Republican Party, and that is Georgia. Incumbent Senator Raphael Warnock won the runoff election in 2021, defeating incumbent Senator Kelly Loeffler. Warnock, who is a Democrat, is running for the full term in 2022. However, Herschel Walker is the Republican who is most likely going to oppose him. He's the current frontrunner in the primary, and chances are he will defeat Warnock in the general election. Similarly to in Wisconsin, the GOP-leaning environment in 2022 is what is going to give Herschel Walker the edge over Raphael Warnock in Georgia in 2022. Keep in mind, these are just predictions. Herschel Walker could obviously lose the primary, even though it is unlikely. However, I believe that the GOP nominee, whoever it is, will defeat Raphael Warnock in 2022, albeit by a tilt margin of victory, which, if you check the margins in the description, is by under 2 points. And then finally, moving on to the tilt states for the Democratic Party, and there are 3 in this category. Nevada. Incumbent Senator Catherine Cortez Masto was elected in 2016, succeeding Harry Reid in that Senate seat. And while early polls have showed a very competitive race, I believe that she will still win re-election. However, I believe that it will be very competitive in a very close race and a very narrow margin of victory. Same in Arizona with incumbent Senator Mark Kelly, elected in 2020, seeking a full term in 2022. Mark Kelly, a Democrat, is running for re-election, and the Republican primary field in this election is very crowded and lacking the significant candidate, the current governor of Arizona, a Republican, Doug Ducey. He has declined to run for Senate in 2022, and chances are, given the GOP-leaning environment in 2022, this race could get very competitive. However, given the Republicans lacking an extremely strong candidate and Mark Kelly winning election in 2020, chances are that Mark Kelly will be reelected in 2022. And then finally, moving on to the final tilt state for the Democratic Party, and the final state in 2022, and this is Pennsylvania. And the GOP primary field in Pennsylvania is very crowded. Obviously, I have checked the polls, and the most recent time I checked, Dr. Mehmet Oz was polling ahead in the GOP primary. And the Democrats also have a relatively crowded primary field, albeit their 2 frontrunners are Connor Lamb and John Fetterman. Connor Lamb is a U.S. representative from Pennsylvania, and John Fetterman is the current lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania. I believe that Fetterman will prevail in the primary, and I believe that he will win the general election, albeit by a very narrow margin of victory, by under 2 points. And I believe that, even speaking generally, a general Democrat, whoever it is, whoever emerges from that primary, will defeat the general Republican, whoever emerges from the GOP primary, in the general election by under 2 points. However, like I said, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, all going to be very competitive races in 2022. They could all go either way. Even states like New Hampshire, Wisconsin, North Carolina could get competitive. However, I believe that after the 2022 midterm elections, the Senate is going to remain split 50-50, with the Republicans flipping the state of Georgia to the GOP, and the Democrats flipping the state of Pennsylvania to the Democratic Party. Once again, thank you for watching. I will try to update these Senate predictions at least once a month leading up to the primaries and the general election. Thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day. Please remember to like and subscribe.